Hey guys, Cameron for Daredevil, Season 2, Episode 6, Regrets Only, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. I have been loving the hell out of this season, and especially after that great introduction to Elektra, I really wanted to see how this episode was going to be, because the episode really left us on a lot of different places. I mean, where does Matt really go from there? As we know, and I didn't realize this, not only did Elektra reveal that she's manipulative and that she wants Matt to do this, but she manipulated him by saying, look, if you're not going to do this, I'm going to out you as the Daredevil. That's what it seemed like she was going to do, to me at least. Like, she's going to out him as Daredevil. She'll tell him what's going on, and she basically told him that I know you're the Daredevil, and if you don't do this, I'm going to out you. That's really what I think she was going to do. But let's just get in this episode because there's a lot to talk about, and there's really a lot to talk about in this episode. What I did like about this episode is that we did get a lot. There wasn't a lot of action here, but there were some really great scenes here. But let's just get into it. But we do get the only action scene in this episode. We see a man races down city streets on a motorcycle, joining a group of others, which only continues to grow. They swiftly zip through by traffic. There's 5 of them. They pull up to a curb, get off their bikes, draw machine guns. They talk in a foreign language as they enter the building, shooting off locks, and it's Elektra's apartment. Daredevil drops down, takes down one man with the help of a swooping in Elektra. He tosses her a gun, which she dismantles and sets aside. They take on the group 2 at a time until the last man joins in, wielding nunchucks, and Daredevil gets double teamed. Elektra finishes her opponent, comes to his aid. They take down the gang, and Elektra then asks, hungry? Like, she just casually asks it, so you can tell that basically he did join her, which made sense, obviously, because now that she knows he's Daredevil, she probably, like I said, was going to reveal his secrets, and basically, you can see that these two are now working together. But I love the way this next scene was done. You can tell that Elektra hasn't really changed, and she wants to get things back to the way they were, but Matt really has. Like I said, Matt's not as naive or as open to taking deals as he was then. So later, Elektra devours her breakfast as Matt insists she open up to him. He's mad that she didn't tell him the Yakuza were after her because he knows that there are more reasons why she's there. He wants to know the truth about everything going on, but she mocks him, slurps her drinks loudly, and she doesn't want to tell him what's going on. You can tell, and she reveals that she didn't know about the Yakuza being invested in Roxon until they showed up last night, and it's just, this is not his problem, that he really doesn't need to be involved. She's just forcing him to do this, and he's just going to stay committed. You know, it's only really her problem. It shouldn't really be his problem. He tells her to call the police or get a lawyer before telling her to leave a big tip, leave the diner, and get on a place out of New York City. And Matt says, so take care of the Yakuza if their plan consists of things larger than Elektra. She insists Yakuza never left despite what Matt thinks. They only watched him take out their enemies, and they've always been around. Like, they've always been there, but I don't know. I feel like maybe there's more going on there. I don't really know. But basically, she says they only watched him take out their enemies, and she wants to partner up with him, which we've kind of been building up to. If you remember in the first episode, Foggy said that Matt can't do this alone. And this is definitely hinting that Elektra might become his partner, his partner in crime full time. The problem is, Elektra's just so much more extreme and so much different than Matt really is, because Matt won't kill while Elektra will. She has completely no problem with that. And she used the information she gained from Roxon Service to get to the Yakuza, and Matt is only on board if nobody dies. That's what he wants to do, because he doesn't want to be responsible for that. He doesn't want to get involved, and if no one dies, then he can just, let her go away, and this can be their only thing. But he does keep reiterating that this is it, that, he's going to help her with this, and then she's gone. He doesn't want to help her with anything else. So she has a very specific rule too, no sex, and Matt's appalled by her belief that Matt wants to sleep with her because he's seeing someone else and he's moved on, and it shows that she doesn't really seem to have moved on. It seems like Elektra's still in the same place as she was before. Like, the flashbacks especially show she hasn't really moved on, and this definitely shows that I think she still wants to be with Matt, and you can tell that he just craved back then this violent sexual desire, and now he's not. Things have really slowed down his life, and he's happy with Karen, and he wants to be with her. And she says the last thing before the deal is that she gets to eat the pie, which is on the table, which was a pretty funny scene, but again, it shows you why Elektra and Matt are so different fundamentally, and just the way they think, but also the way they do things. I mean, Matt will think about a lot of things, while Elektra doesn't really think things through, you can tell. She really doesn't think what she's doing. She just goes for it, and I really like the way that they showed that. It really showed the dynamic between these two really well here. So at the office, Foggy and Karen talk with an investigator. It's Christopher Roth, the public defender on the Frank Castle case, and we see in this episode, Frank Castle is not going away. I mean, we knew that from the last episode, but We get a lot more focus with Frank in this episode, and we also get a very abrupt return to Frank here, which I don't have a problem with Frank returning. I mean, him returning is great because he's not the villain anymore. Now it's all about this case, and he's claiming that the case will be open and shut when Frank decides to plead guilty and receives the death penalty, because that's what they need him to do. They need to admit that he did do these things, and with Dogs of Hell having been killed in Delaware, Frank will be eligible for the penalty despite it not being legal in New York, and Karen refuses to sign off on her statement. She doesn't want him to be killed. And again, she wants them to tell the story, and they're not telling the story. And Roth leaves. Karen claims it was a statement crafted by Reyes, and that Reyes just wants to kill Frank. That's what it's all about. And Matt wants to defend Castle themselves. And Foggy's afraid to stand up to Reyes and doesn't want to defend a murderer to begin with. He insists it's a bad idea, and Karen then steps outside. Foggy and Matt talk alone. Foggy calls Matt crazy for defending the Punisher, that there's no reason he should be defending him. But Matt says that Frank had a noble cause, but Foggy's still very skeptical. He doesn't really think that Frank did. And again, it really shows how different that these two are as well. Foggy, of course, didn't see the kind of stuff that Daredevil did. He doesn't know what Matt's experience was with that. He doesn't know about any of that stuff. And he's asking if this is about saving a man or saving a vigilante, which there is definitely a big difference. But I really think Matt just wants to do some good. He knows that Frank has some good in him. And he knows that Frank cares. Like, he did this because his family died. And he knows what he's going through. And Karen does as well. Foggy doesn't really. That's the thing. Foggy doesn't know all that Frank's been through. He didn't know the torture that he induced. He didn't know what happened to his family. He doesn't really know about any of that. So Foggy tells Karen to grab her stuff. They're going to the hospital, and they're gonna try to help him out because Matt's not gonna resist. He's gonna try to help him out, so they might as well. So at the hospital, reporters rush around hoping for a word with Frank. A nurse approaches them, checks their IDs before allowing them inside the hospital. And on Frank's floor, Brett questions why they're here because obviously he doesn't want them there. And we realize that he's been promoted to detective since catching Frank. So in many ways, Matt did help. Because if you remember, Matt said if you want to up your status, then you got to catch him, and that's exactly what he did. So they tell Brett they want to represent Frank, and it is in Frank's best interest to have them represent him. That, they are very good at what they do. Karen knows what he's gone through, Matt knows, and they will very fairly defend him. Foggy, I'm not so sure about that. Like, Foggy just seems like, all right, you guys know what you're doing. I'm kind of outnumbered here. So Brett pulls them aside, tells them that if they go up against Reyes and lose, it's career suicide. Like, basically, if you lose, consider your career completely done. Like, you're not going to have your company anymore. It's all going to be over. So they wish to continue and beginning with a search of their bags and personal belongings, and basically they decide to go in, even though Brett doesn't really want them to. He's realizing that this is something that they really want to do. They want to defend Frank, and he can't really stop them. So Matt and Karen and hold hands on the way into Frank's room, where he's hooked up to an IV, handcuffed to the bed, and you can tell right away the Matt and Karen are officially dating, which I think they're really cute, honestly. I really do like them in these scenes they have together. So Matt walks up to the line on the floor, which Brett told him not to cross, and I really thought of how hard of a scene this was. I mean, how hard of a thing this was for Matt to do. I mean, in other shows, sure, we've seen, someone be a superhero and then have to be their regular self. But the thing is here, Frank doesn't know that Matt is the Daredevil. So Matt has to pretend that he's never met Frank before. And of course, Karen doesn't know he's the Daredevil either. So he basically has to pretend that he's never known Frank before. Like, he only knows what Karen's told him, and he has to act as basically casual as possible about this whole thing, and as, professional. Well, not casual, but as professional as he can, and not let this emotionally affect him, which I really love the way this was done because, of course, Frank doesn't know that Matt Murdock and Daredevil are the same person. He doesn't know that. So basically, Frank insults him, and Matt offers free representation and promises it for the right reasons because Frank doesn't want them to defend him. He doesn't think that they're the right people to do, and they want to know why the DA's offices want him dead. Frank insults him again, and you kind of wonder, does Frank want to die here? Like, does he actually possibly want to die? Because that's what they want. So Karen pulls out a photo of Frank and his family. Frank is now curious how she got it, but Reyes then storms and kicks them out, and she claims that Nelson and Murdock is out of bounds here, but Matt insists that they are better suited to represent Frank. She tells Matt to leave all this behind, and they can't represent him with the conflict of interest of Grotto being Frank's victim, but Matt calls her out for deleting files and sarcastically says that she would be happy to disclose doing so when she files a conflict of interest. Because, of course, as we know, Reyes, only told the story of Frank that she wants. She doesn't want Frank to be known as this guy. She wants to be known as a killer. And that's what she wants to do. She basically wants to kill him. But Matt concludes that he's willing to help Frank, and Brett emerges to tell him that he already did. Frank doesn't want the public defender. He does want Nelson and Murdoch, and that they were able to get through to him. Just from that little encounter, I think just from him knowing that they know what Frank went through and that these people didn't, that's why he wants them to help him. But I do think Frank's eventually going to get a little suspicious. Like, he has to wonder, how did Karen get that photo? How does Matt know what he went through? How do they know this stuff? Eventually, I think Frank's going to start to make connections. Right now, he's not, but he definitely is going to start to. So Foggy, Matt, and Karen talk privately in another room. They run through a game plan on representing Frank, and it's a good scene because they all have different ways of doing this. Like, Matt wants to do this, very quietly, while Foggy wants to do this in a different way, and I like seeing the way that that was done, and I thought that was a very good scene there. So someone that knocks on the door, it's a driver requesting Matt Murdock, and Matt covers up the whole Electra thing, reminding Foggy of that new client, and he has to basically make them think that Electra's just a client. Foggy doesn't even know that Electra's back, and you have to wonder that Foggy probably knew who Electra was. I mean, you have to think that, because remember, the first time that Matt and Foggy met Electra was in college. That's how he met her before. Foggy, I don't think ever actually met her, but do they know each other? That's kind of my thing. Does Foggy know Electra, or did Matt just forget about her and never tell him what's going on? I don't really know. I think it's kind of the latter, but at the same time, maybe there could have been more. I mean, we saw what we saw in those flashbacks. We don't know if there was anything in between them or there was something more, because I feel like there was, but we just didn't get it yet, and I'm definitely interested in seeing, what's going on with that. So, Matt kisses Karen and Lee as Foggy's caught off guard, which makes for an awkward situation, and I love Foggy's line of, "Are you two together, or what's going on there?" Because he doesn't know that Matt and Karen are together. Kind of a funny scene. Karen then walks Matt to the elevator. They flirt a bit before he leaves, agrees to pushing dinner back tomorrow. They kiss one more time before he leaves. Matt looks a little uneasy in the elevator, not knowing what's going to happen, because even though he agreed to what Electra wanted him to do, he doesn't know if Electra's going to try to coax him into killing, because she has before, and just knowing the power she has over him and what she's able to do, he's obviously kind of worried. I don't blame Matt for being really worried about this situation, because, of course, Electra, we know what she's done before, and we know how powerful she is, so I can understand why he's really worried here. So Matt then gets Electra's limo, tells her she can't just send a driver, that, she can't just do this that way. She tells him to get undressed as they're in a hurry to get to an event where an accountant of Roxon will be. She's after a key card that the man's in possession of, and Matt concludes that security will be tight after last night. He wants to know every step of the plan, and he wants to know really what they're going to do there. So back at the hospital, Foggy counted almost 40 murder charges, and also I like the way that this scene was done. Again, you can tell that Electra wants to move forward. She's trying to get Macbeth on the same path, but he just wants to focus on the mission. That's what he wants to focus on. He doesn't want to focus on them personally, and anytime she does talk about them, he is changing the subject, because he doesn't want to focus on them, which, again, I can understand. Obviously, she put him through a lot of shit, and he doesn't want to deal with any of that right now, which I don't blame him for. So, back at the hospital, Foggy counted almost 40 murder charges, and Karen found almost 100 other charges, and they head over to Frank's room, knowing he has these charges. They need to find a way to defend him, and I love what Frank says here, because obviously Frank was, not wanting Nelson and Murdoch to represent him, but you understand what he's going through here, and I love the way the scene was done. And again, I've said before, John Bernthal is amazing, but this scene, and look, this scene wasn't as amazing as episode 4 when we found out pretty much everything we need to know about Frank, but this was a great follow-up, because now we kind of understand what's going on here. Foggy asks Frank if he's going to plead guilty to the charges, but Frank stares at Karen, and he literally says, "I'm guilty." Like, that's why he wants to plead guilty, because he knows deep down that he's guilty, but he isn't talking to Foggy. He's talking to Karen, and he wants to talk to her alone, because he knows that Karen knows what he's been through. Foggy has no idea what he's been through, and that's the thing. It's not that he doesn't want Foggy to represent him. He just knows that Karen knows what he's been through, and he sees that as a way for them to bond, and I love the way the scene was done, because Frank aggressively asks Karen what she knows about his family, because obviously there was a way she got that picture. She shows him a police report where an unidentified male suspect shot at cops to claim the victims were stopped at a traffic light when they were killed, and the driver was critically wounded, taken to a hospital. Frank calls it horse shit, because that's not at all what's going on, and Karen questions why he was at the carousel, because of course she doesn't know everything that happened, and he's hesitant to help, but she convinces him to do so. Frank talks about his daughter laying on a blanket when he heard a scream. A grown man was there. He found out later that it was cartel, Irish, and bikers, and he claims he should have seen it coming. He heard it, and he didn't do anything. His job was to keep them safe, and he didn't, and we start to realize that these Irish bikers that tortured him were the people that killed his family. And that's why that was so hard for him to go through. Knowing what his family went through and knowing what he's going through, I mean, it just makes things so much more effective. But remember, we don't know who Frank's killer was. And I think that is going to be something that we do find out eventually. And maybe some people are saying, oh, it's not big of a deal, but I do think it is. I feel like we need to find out who Frank's killer is. I mean, I'm honestly interested in seeing who his killer could be. Who it is, I don't really know, but I definitely feel like that's going to be something we're going to find out. And he didn't do anything. His job was to keep them safe, and he didn't. And he feels like he's guilty for that. That's why he feels guilty, because he didn't do what he could have done. He didn't keep his family safe. And Karen wants to leave, but he asks her to stay. And we get some very good bonding between Karen and Frank in this episode that I really appreciate. So Matt and Electra then walk into the fancy event. She loves his stupid tie. Other guests admire her, and she takes her jacket off. Matt notices that she gets him a glass of wine. They sip their drinks as a man approaches them, kisses her hand. He leaves, and Electra points out the account at the bar. They put their drinks down and approach, and Electra goes in for the steal, but Matt hears a radio indicating that they are watching the accountant, and she's up for the challenge, saying they need to get the accountant alone. Matt is off alone with a glass of wine. He pours it on the man who was angry at first, but upon seeing Matt is blind, seeing Matt is blind is quite forgiving, because he figures that, oh, he's blind, he doesn't know what he's doing, and that's why he did it. So the accountant heads to the bathroom to clean himself up, and I don't know. This kind of felt like Mission Impossible, but just the way that this was done was really cool. It was kind of a side of the show we haven't seen before, and I really like that. Because, of course, we know Matt. We've seen him do legal things and things like that, or maybe have to take down some villain that he had to take down, but we haven't seen him in, like, spy mode. And that's literally what this was. This felt like some sort of, like, Mission Impossible scene. It was so cool, and I love that aspect of this. And it's, again, something the show's doing so well is bringing all these different aspects, but not, forgetting the main tone of the show. They still know what the show is, and I love that. So back at the hospital, Frank tells Karen she was never in any danger when he was pursuing Grotto. Because if you remember, she was worried. She was worried that he was going to come after her, and he only hurts people who deserve it. And Grotto once shot an old lady because she saw his face, and Karen's skeptical of Frank's claim that she was safe. He tells her that he is a scout sniper, and if he want her dead, she would be dead. He knows what people have done, and he makes sure that he knows, who is corrupted, who he needs to kill, and if he wanted her to be dead, he would have killed her. And she questions why he asked her to stay. He's worried that the memories are going to go away, and he hasn't gone back to his home since his family was killed. And he asked if she was in the kitchen and if the plates were on the table or in the sink. He asked her about the piano in the next room, telling her his son used to put cookies in the bench, and she says she did the same thing as a little girl. They agree that getting away sometimes is good. And again, it doesn't seem like a huge thing, but it also is kind of a huge thing because, it's stealing, things like that. And that they got away with this. And that's something that Punisher's been able to do. He's been able to get away with things, but now he can't. And she tells him that she went into the kid's bedroom, saw the drawings and trophies and toys. There were a lot of plastic dinosaurs, and Frank knows that those were his little girl Lisa's, who used to make noises when she played with them. The remote controlled Jeep was Frank Jr.'s. He got it for his 7th birthday. And I honestly, again, I was almost close to tears here. Anytime that Frank seems to talk about his family, just because of the way that Jon Bernthal shows how much this means to Frank and how hard this is of a story for him to tell, I really do start to get teary. And I think that Jon Bernthal just does such a great job portraying this character. Karen then tells Frank that the family obviously loved him very much. Frank is at a loss for words. Karen fetches the photo from her bag, gives it to Frank, who has a very hard time looking at it because he hasn't seen his family in a while. You have to think that he hasn't looked at it in a while because he hasn't wanted to, and he hasn't been able to. And he says, thank you, ma'am, for helping him remember and welcome her questions. She takes a seat with a notepad, and I like the way they bonded, that he wasn't upset. She basically pulled him back into remembering what really matters, that his family is what matters to him, and that's who he really is, that he's not this killer. They've made him think that. From the reports, he's thought that he's a killer, but he's not a killer, and I love the way that was done. It shows that Karen is going to help Frank, but is there more going on with Karen than we suspect? I do feel there definitely is something that's going on with Karen, because it can't just be the whole thing in season 1. I feel there's something that Karen is covering up that obviously she's worried that Frank suspects, but is there something going on there? I don't really know, but that kind of makes me feel like there is something going on, but I don't really know. We'll have to see what's going on there, and definitely really like the way that that's headed. Really great scene between Karen and Frank, and both of them acted the shit out of that scene, I have to say. Jon Bernthal gave it his all, and Deborah and Woll just as strong. Amazing stuff. And I gotta say, so far, I'm liking Karen more this season than I did last season. Karen's stuff last season did drag. I definitely will say that. It brought the show down a bit. Like, I sometimes got out of Karen's stuff. Like, it wasn't bad what was going on with Karen, but some of her scenes were a little sluggish, and this season has not been the case. Karen, I think, has been an even interesting character. They've given her a lot more to do, and not that they didn't give her more to do last season, but this season in general just felt like she feels so much more part of the main story, and it doesn't feel like she's doing her own thing, and I love that. So the Roxanne count cleans a suit in the bathroom. The lights go out. The men are taken down by Matt as is the accountant. Matt flushes their earpieces before searching the men's pockets, finding the card that Elektra wants. He takes it to the top floor of the Yakuta building with Elektra. Elektra erases the security camera footage and puts them on a loop, but Matt hears someone calling for security, and they hide as a sweep comes through and head back, and this is a very dangerous thing they're doing. I mean, we don't know who's calling for security, but someone is obviously calling for them. So Foggy then tells Frank that the death penalty is off the table, that they're not going to let him die. They know that he's very vulnerable, they know what he's going through, and they're not just going to let him get killed. So he even got Reyes down to one life sentence with a chance at parole after 25 years, but she insists that he's in general pop in prison, and all Frank has to do is plead guilty. And if he pleads guilty, then this isn't gonna, if he pleads guilty, then this will all work out well for him in their favor. So the judges and others fill Frank's room, and then they ask how he pleads, and Frank is quiet, and everyone waits, and you think that Frank's gonna say he's guilty, because he said straight out, I am guilty, but he says that he's not guilty, and I feel like this isn't just Frank fucking with them. I don't think that was the point. This isn't just Frank being like, I'm not gonna listen to what they say, I'm gonna do my own thing. I think Frank personally feels he's not guilty. Like, Karen made him realize that he's doing these things for a reason. He's not just this killer, and there are reasons why he's not guilty for what he did, that he had genuine reasons, and, he knows why he had to kill. She understands him, and that he doesn't feel that he is guilty. He doesn't feel he's done anything wrong, and Karen's really made him realize that, and I love seeing that. So he tells Reyes he will watch her burn, calls her a witch. Reyes storms out, and they're really setting up Reyes to be the villain this season. But like I said, I really do feel the villain this season are people's inner demons, because we're really setting up Frank to no longer be a villain, but be a full drawn, full fleshed out character that is a lot more than a villain, and I think it did a very good job with that. So obviously, Foggy and Karen are shocked by Frank's decision. The press are waiting outside for them, and they realize that they're going to have to represent him, that they have to represent him, they have to show why he's not guilty, and it's going to be very hard to do. So Elektra and Matt continue their search as the party rages on downstairs. The man who kissed Elektra's hand stands at the bar looking for her. Matt pushes Elektra into a room as two security guards approach and continue after they pass. The man at the party questions where the account is and informs he's in the men's room. Elektra leads Matt to a safe. Matt cracks the code. Elektra searches what is inside. She doesn't find what she's looking for, and she gets frantic. She searches the desk at which Matt is calmly sitting. Matt hears something through the wall, and the security team finds the accountant in the bathroom and finds that he doesn't have his card on him. The team on the camera searches, but he doesn't find anything, and Matt tells Elektra there's an electrical current coming through the wall. It leads him to a plant on a shelf, which Elektra discovers to be the secret way to enter, and inside the hidden room, Elektra finds the papers that she's looking for. The guards realize the cameras are glitching, send people looking for Matt and Elektra. A very crazy scene. I mean, I had no idea what was going to happen here. Really crazy stuff. Elektra finds the Roxanne ledger. Matt insists that they have to go now. The elevators aren't working, and Matt tells her the man are going to see them, and the lights go out, and the floor goes on lockdown. Men rush up the stairs toward them. Matt and Elektra hide under a table, unleash a well-timed attack on the guards nearby, and something I love about the scene is that this wasn't just an action scene. Again, this felt like a spy scene, and I loved it. Again, an aspect of the show we haven't seen before, and I think they did a great job with it. So the two rush down the stairs as men approach from below and pursue them. Two security guards are about to leave as they hear Elektra moaning from a conference room. They find Matt and Elektra on a table. Matt gets dressed. The man holds a flashlight to his eyes and sees no change, and they kick Elektra and Matt out. Elektra acts drunk on the way out because obviously she has to act like this was, an accident, that they didn't mean to do this. So in the limo, Elektra reads the ledger. It has invoices for guns and drugs and human trafficking, and she finds a page which she can't read, which is written in code, and Matt wants to know what they're hiding. Obviously, there's something going on there. We don't know what it is, but what is in this code, we don't really know. So the accountant is escorted to the man who kissed Elektra's hand's office. He criticized the man for following his access card to go missing. The security guards who were attacked are quickly shot in the back of the head. Gibson panics, tells the man he has nothing but respect for the Yakuza, but the man asks who said it was Yakuza, and it's clear this man is not working for the Yakuza. Who he's working for, we don't know, but that's very interesting. I can't wait to see where that's going, and really great way I really am interested in seeing what's going on there. But the end of this episode, I loved. One, it shows how divided Matt and Foggy are. It really does show that, but it also shows the cases that these they both stand. And you really do see that you understand their points here. Matt gets home, as Foggy would happen. Foggy tells him that Frank pled not guilty and Reyes is going all out, and Matt wants motion to extend, but Foggy tells Matt he doesn't understand that Frank agreed but must have something against Reyes and that there's definitely something more going on here. He doesn't know what it is. And the People versus Castle starts next week, and now they realize that they are fully into this case. They have to help him out, and they can't get out of it. And that's basically how the episode ends. An amazing episode, guys, definitely. This is right up there with episode 4, I gotta say. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 have been episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6 have been very close. I mean, episode 4 is still the best, but this was probably right up there, I have to say. Episode 6 definitely is the first one to be just as great as episode 4, definitely. I love this episode, and the way they're putting, it seemed like it'd be overstuffed. Like, this really seems like this could be a very overstuffed episode, but it wasn't at all because just the way it was done. Elektra is focused on Matt, and Frank, while it's focused on Matt, is more focused on Karen now, and I love seeing that. They're showing an aspect of Frank we have yet to see this season, and I love that we saw that. But let's talk about what's going on with the Elektra situation, because right now, nobody seems to know that Elektra's back. I mean, I don't even think Foggy knows who she is, and I mean, I don't know, but to me it seems that way because he didn't say, oh, Elektra's back, anything like that. And obviously, Karen doesn't know who that is either, and, he can't tell there's another woman in his life or anything. But to me, it doesn't even seem like Foggy knows who Elektra is. Does he? Is there, like, a connection to Elektra? Did something happen between Foggy and Elektra that we don't know? I mean, that's very interesting what's going on there. And Elektra clearly wants to stay. Like, she doesn't just want to be a one-time thing. She does want to get out of it. She does want to be Matt's full-time partner, and you understand that. I mean, the two do work really well together. I definitely will say that. The problem is she's so dangerous and so destructive and makes Matt this evil side of him that he really doesn't want to see. You can understand why Matt and Elektra can really never be together, even though she wants them to, which honestly is quite tragic because I do really care for Elektra. And again, you understand the drive and the obsession she has with killing and how it makes her actually happy that she gets to kill. You understand that. But, that's just not how Matt wants things. I think it's interesting the way that that's going, and I definitely really do like that. Karen. Something I like the way they're handling things with Karen is that Karen doesn't seem suspicious about Matt. Like, obviously, Matt has to leave because of Elektra, but she's not really thinking anything. Like, she's not really thinking, why is he leaving? Because she's not focused on that. She's focused on Frank. That's what she's focused on right now. She wants to tell about Frank, and I can't wait to see more scenes between her and Frank. They just feel so genuine and so human, and it feels like there's more that Karen has gone through than we think, which I think there is. I really think there's more going on with Karen than we've seen, and I can't wait to see what that is. I do think you're going to further develop that, and I think Karen is not all the way fully developed yet. I do think there's another aspect of her character that we're going to see this season. I can't wait to see what that is because I definitely feel there's more going on with her, and I love the way that's being handled, definitely. Is there something that Reyes is not telling Foggy? I mean, I feel like there's more going on with Reyes, like maybe she wants to send Frank to death, or maybe she has beef with him or something. I don't really know, but it's clear this is not just she wants Frank dead because he did wrong. It's clear there's something more there, and they don't really know what it is, but the fact that she threatened Nelson and Murdoch, and the fact they can go out of business, I mean, that would be crazy if it happened. I don't know if it's going to happen, but definitely it'd be very interesting if it did, and I can't wait to see the way that plays out, definitely. And I also love, my favorite scene by far this episode was the conversation between Karen and Frank, in case you guys couldn't tell. I mean, that scene was just, it was amazing. Everything about it was so great, and Frank, I think it was a wake-up call. It really was his wake-up call, realizing he's not a bad person, and realizing what he stands by. Why is he in this in the first place is all because of that action. Now, who was Frank's killer? We don't really know. Is that possibly connected to Elektra? Because I kind of feel like it is. I mean, at this point, Frank and Elektra have had no interaction, but it really does seem like they're going to connect these two things together. They have to at some point. They're both main characters, and I'm sure that eventually this is going to connect. I don't know in what capacity, but I do think it's going to connect at some point. Um, what is the code that they can't read? Will they decode what's going on there? And what's going on with Gibson? Because this man clearly isn't Yakuza. He has respect for the Yakuza, but he's not Yakuza. So who is this man? We really don't know who he is. And what exactly is the Yakuza hiding? Because it's clear they're hiding something, and Matt wants to figure that out, but I don't really know what they're hiding. It's gonna be interesting to see what's going on there, what they're hiding from them, because it's clear there is something that they're hiding there. We just don't really know what it is right now, and I can't wait to see where that's going. interesting. But I think it's also a way for Elektra to keep Matt in the fold, because obviously he told her, I'm going to do this and then you're gone. But that's not what's going on. I mean, it's clear that Elektra is going to prolong this. She's going to make this more complicated. And I have to wonder, is Elektra kind of doing this just to keep, tabs on Matt? I mean, is there really something going on? Or did Elektra stage this? I mean, I could see her doing something like that. She's so deceitful and so distrusting and so just crazy that I honestly could see Elektra staging this entire thing. I really could. I think it'd be very interesting if she did, and that's an aspect of her character that we've definitely seen. We've seen how crazy and manipulative she can be, and if she really did stage the thing, like I said, I wouldn't really be surprised if she did that. Foggy doesn't know what's going on with Frank. I think it's going to be interesting to see if he does find out, because at this point, he's the only one that doesn't really know what Frank's been through. He knows that Karen has evidence, but he doesn't know if it's really true and what's going on there. But he also, I think, realizes he doesn't really get a say here. Even though he wants to have a say, he doesn't really get one, which is very interesting. But overall, guys, another amazing episode. Like I said, I think right up there with episode 4. I absolutely loved it, and I'm just surprised with how great this is turning out. I was really worried this was going to be a very overstuffed episode because of how great the last 2 have been, but this was an amazing episode. Really enjoy it, and I'm loving this season overall. I know you guys saw this episode. We'll see you guys in my next video. I will be watching episode 7 probably tonight, but our next video will be for the Flash, which hasn't been on a while, but I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.